So, greetings. It's wonderful to see you all. It's nice to be here. Those of you who aren't familiar with me, there might be some new people on. My name is Candle Summers, and I'm one of the teachers here at PIMC. And I just want to welcome everybody, if anyone's new, um, that we really like to welcome all people of every age and ethnicity and cultural heritage, religious background, socioeconomic group, ability, sexual orientation, gender identity. PIMC is a welcoming community for diversity and equity and inclusion. And we welcome everyone. We study together and practice for the benefit of all beings and this living earth. And we recognize the suffering caused by biases and prejudices, systems of power and privilege and oppression based on these race and sex and classes and age, etc. And we aspire to not do harm and to dismantle barriers that cause separation and suffering, recognizing that our liberation, our freedom, is interconnected with the liberation of all. And that also being said, we honor and recognize, and I'd like you to just take a moment to include in your heart and think a little bit where the lands are that you are seated. Some people are far away, some people are close up, and that we gather on ancestral land of many peoples. PIMC and the general Beaverton and Portland area is the home of the Clackamas and the Cowlitz, the Grand Ronde tribes, many tribes in the Grand Ronde, and the Silettes, and just acknowledging these communities, their contributions in the past and the present and the future, these indigenous peoples whose lands they were forced to leave for the benefit of the colonists. And as a result, we derive great benefit, and acknowledging those policies of genocide and relocation and assimilation that is still affecting many indigenous families today. And so being committed to remaining mindful and making ongoing efforts to recognize their knowledge and their creativity and their resilience, it can help us recognize the inherent worthiness of all beings and the hopes that healing and reconciliation can come to those who need it most. So just taking a moment to appreciate the land that you live on, the land that gives us this great opportunity to be born in this human lifetime. Such a blessing it is to be born human. There are so many other bodies we could be inhabiting, and just to be able to appreciate that. And so paying homage to the Buddha and his teachings and those enlightened beings that have gone before and since him and those in his time. And also acknowledging the Dhamma, the teachings, the truth that we can see directly, as well as the sangha, our members here in this community at PIMC who loyally come at 7 in the morning, and also all of those who have gone before us for so many generations, those who have remembered the Buddha's teachings, passed it on through several generations before it was able to be written on leaves, scratched in pen with dye rubbed over it, many, many leaves. The Tipitaka is called the basket of leaves, which is where all the writings were originally collected. So having that connection to ancestry can help us really understand the safety and the containment of sitting together, and also the honoring of the precepts so that we can have ethical, harmonious living with each other here in our sitting group and those in our household and those that we interact with each other. So I'm going to take the time to ring this bell and allow the sounds just to come to your ears. Let me make sure I have the right microphone on so you can hear it. Maybe a breath or two, noticing what was happening in the mind, listening to me talk, sound coming to the ears. What happens in the mind? And I'm going to start us out with a short poem of Hafiz with the translations by Daniel Ladinsky. It's called Where Dolphins Dance. Again, the work starts as soon as you open your eyes in the morning. Hopefully, you got some good rest last night. Who always stands at your door? It takes only a second. Habits are human nature. Why not create some that will mint gold? Your arms are violin bows, always moving. I have become very conscious upon whom we all play. Thus my eyes have filled with warm, soft oceans of divine music, where jeweled dolphins dance that leap into this world. Where jeweled dolphins dance that leap into this world. So may we have some moments as we begin settling, appreciating whatever rest we got. Maybe attending to what was happening in our hearts and minds as soon as we opened our eyes, as soon as we noticed our breath, as soon as we noticed our arms moving and our legs moving. May we feel ourselves filled with warm, soft oceans of divine music, our breath, as we settle. Noticing our breath perhaps at the nostrils or the belly, using a single object in the beginning of our meditation to help the mind and heart collect itself in one place. Collecting this crazy groups of thoughts and impressions and perceptions and wild what wild conditions that come together and pop up in our brains, in our minds. We can just notice it as thinking without attachment to whether they're pleasant thoughts or unpleasant thoughts. It's just a stream flowing by, one of the opportunities to notice thinking arising. As we settle with gravity in our chairs, we may notice pressure or heat. We can use a touch point. Sometimes following the breath, we can easily drift off into sleeping or thinking or aversion or grasping. The hindrances can arise sometimes as we get quieter and more single-pointed. But we use a single object of the breath or a touch point where the hands are touching, where you might feel the arms against your body. Just choosing that single object for mindfulness to be aware of and awareness to be present, to be with it, to be really knowing what's occurring as clearly and with relaxed energy as we can be, so that we can hold ourselves in kindness and gentleness as we sit quietly. I like what Pema Chodron says in her book, Start Where You Are. We can learn to let thoughts go and just rest our mind in its natural state of awareness. This kind of open, primordial basis of all phenomenon, all conditions that come together, arise for a moment, they come to us through our senses. And we can rest in this fundamental openness and just watch whatever arises without making a big deal about it. We can appreciate everything that is coming into the heart and mind space, just as it is, without judgment and without shying away from what's there. Letting our attention on the single breath or the touch point, keeping our attention there can help keep out the hindrances, and it can develop concentration, calming, stilling the body, calming the mind. we may notice from time to time that we just wake up again in this moment. We might have been off wandering in thoughts, or maybe sleepiness and dulldom overcomes us, or maybe we have an agitated mind that's busy thinking. Whatever's going on, we just wake up again in this present moment. And that's a moment of awakening. It's a moment of freedom. And we can string these moments of continuity of mindfulness together, whether it's awakening, reawakening in the present moment, or whether it's noticing each changing object arising and passing, or whether we're in an open, more open space of awareness and just seeing and feeling what arises and comes to us through our senses. Conditions come together at the eye door, the ear door, the nose door, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking. This is how we gather and create perceptions of things. But as we're sitting with mindfulness at the fore and awareness present, we can have this spacious, open awareness to just allow thoughts to be part of the stream flowing by. Mindfulness can be the stable stick that we put in the center of that stream, that we can continue returning to that. Knowing of mindfulness, mindfully being aware of what's happening right now, what's happening in the heart, what's happening in the mind, what's the attitude? Can we be relaxed and hold ourselves in easefulness and kindness? Just letting go of views and opinions. Just being more gentle. And yet having enough effort to be interested in what's arising. Because when we're really present with it, we can really notice that if we grasp onto something, it creates suffering. Or if we push something away, that creates suffering. And as we really know and have a felt sense of that grasping or pushing away, we can also see that it disappears after a while. It's not solid. So everything is arising and passing away, coming together and falling apart. And there's a joyfulness. There's an inner smile, joyousness that can arise from seeing this clearly over and over again. Even though sometimes what we connect with is embarrassing or painful, or we can see some of our little sneaky hiding places, or we might notice ways that we shut down, deny, close off, or criticize people, or all our weird ways that we judge ourselves. We have to have a sense of humor and kindness around it. And we're coming to know our humanness together, all up against these same things. Attachments, aversions, confusion, not really seeing clearly. But we have mindfulness at the core, mindfulness right here at the front, and awareness, which brings wisdom, so that we can let go of what's not serving us and unskillful, and we can continue inclining our hearts and minds toward what's skillful. Loving kindness, compassion for ourselves and others. gentleness, easefulness, spaciousness. Coming back to the breath if the mind is wandering. Sometimes it's helpful to just make a soft, gentle note if we have repetitive thought patterns, just noticing thinking, using like 5% of our awareness to give the soft, gentle note of thinking, or maybe there's pressure somewhere or heat somewhere. Maybe there are physical sensations arising in the body. If they repeat themselves as we notice them, possibly moving around, we can just notice you can put little adjectives to them. Aching, stabbing, heat, pressure. Or maybe there's various emotional states that rise in the mind. Noticing with a soft, gentle note of joyousness or sadness, frustration or anger or tranquility or happiness. And sometimes we don't have to make it so loud. as it becomes a word, but it's a perception, quickly changing mind moments with that soft, gentle note, so that we have continual mindfulness at each moment that arises as much as we can. We also may notice that the touch of the breath is light. Maybe 25% of our awareness is on the breath. We're not grasping or fixating on it, but we're opening, letting the breath mix with the whole space within our body. Sometimes we can feel the container of our body breathing. Noticing our breath just going out into space, and then noticing that gap between the inhale and the exhale, and when the next breath goes out or comes in again. A sense of opening, a sense of calmness and tranquility, just being with what is. Breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. And as we're breathing in and breathing out, may we notice some spaciousness, develop some spaciousness in our hearts, to allow this kindness that we hold ourselves gently in. To include others. May we include within our heart space a close friend, imagining them, feeling them to be happy and healthy. Sending goodwill that they may be free from enmity and danger. May they be free from anxiety. May they take care of themselves happily. And letting this space that we develop in our hearts include a teacher, a benefactor. It could be an animal, a child, an actual teacher, maybe our first Dharma teacher. Envisioning and holding in our heart space this being, that they too may be free from harm, free from enmity and danger, safe, protected, protected by the Dhamma. We let this kindness and compassion include them. This practice benefits all beings, including ourselves. May I be free from danger, inner and outer harm. May my heart and mind be relaxed. May I have ease and take care of myself happily. May I have compassion for myself when things are challenging. And may I have compassion for these others in my heart space, my benefactor and my friend. And may we expand this kindness and compassion, metta and karuna, to a neutral person, someone we don't know well, we haven't formed an opinion about. Just as I wish to be happy, I know that they also wish to be happy. Envisioning them safe and protected, having ease and well-being. This could be a single person, or it could be a group of people. And may we expand this heart space of metta and compassion to the larger arena around us. Who might be in our household, our neighbors, our family members. There may be a difficult person in our life that's challenging, including them in this space of goodwill, compassion, and kindness. And larger groups of people, those in suffering, those forced to leave their homes, or those oppressed, those being violated, or those in sickness. There's so much for our open-hearted being to include. And we can have equanimity without falling into extremes, having a balanced sense to include all of those beings in suffering and those beings in joy, those in sorrow, those enlightened and those unenlightened, those seen and unseen, beings that walk and crawl and fly. May we hold in our hearts all beings, that they be safe, happy, healthy, peaceful, have ease. May they be free from enmity and danger. May they be free from anxiety. May they be free from ill will. May all beings take care of themselves happily, know happiness. May all beings abide in well-being, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety. May they maintain well-being in themselves. May all beings be released from all suffering and not be parted from the good fortune they've attained. Anicca vata sankhara Upadawaya domino, upakitawa meruchanti, te samvapasamo sukho. All conditioned things are subject to impermanence. They arise and pass away. And seeing this clearly with mindfulness brings the greatest happiness, and that happiness is peace. And may we remember that the goodness of our practice can merit and be of benefit to all beings. And thank you so much for your practice. It brings me great joy to be able to sit with you and to know that we share in this practice together, joining with others all around the world. And so may you not forget as you go about your day today that others are holding you in their loving kindness. You're the neutral person to thousands of nuns sitting on a hillside in a monastery in Burma and in Thailand and in Sri Lanka, just as we include all beings in our practice. May you go about your day with joy. And I will take a moment or two here to make a couple of announcements, and then we can have a little conversation before signing off. I want to thank you, Anne, for your message in the chat. One of the things that PIMC has been embracing for at least the last year and a half is a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee. In fact, a couple of people, at least one person sitting here this morning, is on our committee. And it's been our mission at PIMC to make it known of our inclusion and acknowledging the indigenous peoples whose lands we occupy. And if those of you who are new haven't gone to the website, you might notice that we have a DEI page and we have some statements there and some of the activities that have occurred. And we had a movie night sort of in the summer. We're going to have another one coming up. And we also have some classes. We had a class around You Belong, Sebene Selassie's book. And there's another one coming up around basically how can we diversify and broaden the Dhamma's reach. Because, as we can see the obvious, really, that Western Buddhism has been most accessible to people that are middle to upper middle class, white, heterosexual, and privileged. And we want to build sangha that reflects the promise of liberation for everyone. And so, we can learn from both our personal individual lives and also from the rich gathering together of our collective experiences. So exploring how we can embrace diverse identities and experiences within our spiritual community and how we can compassionately and wisely navigate belonging and inclusion in our own hearts. With that in mind, there's going to be a new class coming up in January. It's a 5-week class. It'll be every other Tuesday from January through March, I believe. And so if you go to the website, or if you haven't already signed up for the digest or get the listserv from PIMC Connections, it's a great idea to go to the website and see where you can join to get the weekly announcements from the digest. Um, we're going to be doing that class using a book by Larry Yang called Awakening Together. And he is the founder of the East Bay Meditation Center in the Bay Area. And he's been on the teacher's staff at Spirit Rock, and this book is a really great guideline book for helping sanghas and people touch into uh, their hearts around diversity and equity. So uh, that's all I need to say about this, except for I'd love to have many of you show up for this, because these discussion groups have been very rich and thoughtful. I think a couple of you that are in here might agree. Those of you that attend from this morning, that I see you in these classes. Um, and then we have coming up in a couple of weeks is Robert's birthday. It's on a Saturday evening. Uh, so it's a special event, and it's going to be in person at Portland Insight Meditation Community. And part of it is a fundraising and gathering for PIMC's coffers. We've been working in a deficit for a while, and as you know, there's been the wheelchair ramp and seismic improvements, and so any amount of donation, whether it's going to be just a one-time thing, or whether you can give $10 monthly or whatever, it's always appreciated. Um, Not a necessity, because the teachings of the Dhamma are given freely. And if you'd like to hear any more of my talks or connect with me, I have a website. It's simple to remember. It's called Given Freely, because the teachings of the Dhamma are given freely. So it's givenfreely.com, and it connects you to my YouTube account. So you can hear my meditations and short talks if you want to see me more often than when I come to PIMC, which is the first and third Sundays. I lead a group in the evening, so there's not one coming up this Sunday, but it's the Sunday after this. And we have a women's group that meets the third Fridays of each month. It's going to have a new sign up for the next term. It's 4 months at a time. So yay, we have another group starting up again in January, so maybe some new people will come. Doug Pullen has a class on Thursday evenings, which is lovely to go to. It's called The Heart of Freedom. And Jim has his monthly Qigong, and there's not one coming up until January, so that's probably enough in the announcement arena. How about some conversation? How was your sitting period today? Of course, sometimes we have good ones, sometimes we have bad ones, but who cares? Who's keeping track and judging? Anybody have things on their mind that they'd like to share with each other in the time that we have together?